welcome back everybody. We are ready with the setup and I'm gonna throw it over to Cyver and Sniper. Guys, good luck, have fun.
Night or evening, wherever you're at, to everyone. I am tired,
I'm really tired.
and this is the winner of the game, of the race, which is the game itself.
Yep.
That's just how the race works.
Welcome to Spectrobes. This is going to be something, for sure. Yeah,
You cannot be ready for the game, but just give us a countdown, please.
3, 2, 1, go!
So, like many other good speed games for the DS, we start off with an unskippable cutscene, followed by a bunch of text smashing, because why wouldn't it?
Yep.
So if you have anything to plug, this actually would be the perfect moment for it.
Alrighty, just give me 1 second. Yes, there it is. Okay. Well, we have some things we can give away, and our sponsor for it is Nintendo.org. They, well, for every donation you're doing to the charity, you'll be eligible to win one of our amazing prizes sponsored by Nintendo.org. Any donation will get you a chance to win one of the prizes. And it will also give you a 3 times bigger chance for the grand prize. For more information about the grand prize, follow the link in chat. Thanks, Moobot. We would also like to thank ESA for supporting the event and allowing us to stream on their channel. So, do you guys have anything to say about the game?
I mean, you can start off with the introduction of this bit.
Yeah. So, I guess we could just say, like, this has already been at an annual before 2 years ago. This nerd over there, he did a solo run of it. The estimate back then was 2 hours, and he got a run of 134 flat, which was world record at the time. Our estimate today is 125, and the current world record is a 117.55. So it's safe to say that the game has gotten a lot more optimized in the last 2 years. So if you've already seen that run, it's going to be quite different and much faster.
Yeah, we've changed a lot of strats since then. From honestly, beginning to end, a lot of small optimization has been found in the recent months or weeks even. And the last time we did a race just for fun, this guy actually world recorded by like a minute and a half almost.
Yeah, it was the day before I headed off for annual. It was kind of crazy.
So yeah, this is actually one of the harder fights in the game, where we're gonna try to line up all these enemies just so we can two-cycle them. That's a really weird knockback pattern. This game can do that sometimes.
Oh, that looks really good for me.
Oh, you're already ahead then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was perfect. That was a really good first fight right there.
So yeah, this AI is already gonna be weird every now and then. Oh my word, what's going on here? Yeah, I would love to call this the hardest fight in the game. Cyber might disagree.
Oh, it's definitely one of the trickier ones to get right.
So a really bad thing about this fight is if you mess up the initial setup, recovery can be really hard due to the way they get knocked back. And I hit my enemy a little early, so the setup was completely off. And Cyber, I think, got the perfect fight.
Oh yeah, mine was great. Yeah, one other thing that is optimizing this game was just finding ways to cut turns that you use in the fights. So finding ways to just kill the enemies as quick as possible. That was a pretty good example right there.
Yeah, lore-wise, this old man here, his name is Aldous. He has been apparently from a star system that has disappeared about 16 years ago. Apparently by the Crawl, who is the enemy of this game. It's basically a race of fungi-esque creatures that just completely eat star systems. And the vortexes that we saw earlier that are actually the only encounters in the game. You can technically do this encounterless, but every time you do get hit, you lose about 13 to 13 and a half seconds.
Quick optimization I did there was walking up to the cockpit instead of going to the exit, which is what we used to do. That's about 2 seconds faster, I believe, because when you walk down to the exit, you get a little cutscene that has Roland walking back slowly. Right here, we're gonna get a fossil, and we're going to be awakening it. So
We
think
we have our own sentence for it.
yeah, we have well established that there's only one way how to awaken these fossils. So sorry if I destroy anyone's ears, but here we go. By the power of memes.
See, my fossil's coming up in a bit. So, chat, if you want to join in, just wake it up as a crowd, even. By the power of memes. There we go.
Thanks, boys.
Good job, crowd. I love you.
All right. One thing about this game that it did really well, it tried to use the DS to its full extent. So that was like mic input, and we're going to see a lot of touchscreen-based stuff. Touchscreen is actually the big focus of this game, so most of the action is going to be down there.
It's kind of a shame that in the speedrun we actually cut out what gives off the best casual experience, which is excavating minerals, which is what Siver's going to do. So we just got an explanation on how excavation works. The child Spectrobe that is now following us, that just got awoken, is actually not capable of combat, but he is capable of finding fossils, minerals, and cubes. And we are now tasked to find 2 cubes. And there's actually a really funny optimization that happened really recently, actually.
Yep. So while I was routing the no card input category, more details on that later, some person in my chat actually found out about this random cube that is just in the middle of nowhere. It's actually about 5.5 seconds faster than the cube that we used to dig up, so quick shout out to Mr. Bony Pants guy from my Twitch chat right there. Ugh, that vortex is in a bad spot. And from here on out, we're going to have to deal with these vortexes that are moving across the overworld. Like Sniper already mentioned, every time we run into one of those, it's a 13-second time loss, so we want to avoid getting into encounters as best as we can. Oh my god, please excavate that.
So yeah, there's a vortex that could spawn here, where it'll be really close to the excavation site, and you're actually immobile right after excavating something, so it's actually really hard to avoid that. And if it's close enough, it actually becomes unavoidable. It's pretty rare, but every now and then it just throws away a run. So with these 2 cubes, we're just going to return to the cruiser, talk to Aldous, deliver both, and we'll move on to the next mission. That was a very finicky vortex there.
So what cubes do for us in the casual playthrough, they would give you a lot of information about Spectrobes, how they work, and just a bunch of other stuff. There's also special cubes that unlock certain machinery for us, like, for example, a Nintendo Wi-Fi connection. And we're going to be actually getting one of those cubes in just a bit.
So you might notice that we are playing in Japanese, or not in Japanese version, but in English. We've actually recently found that Japanese is a lot faster, and that's mainly due to the slow text that you just saw us pop up after we put in the cubes. So there's a point in the game later where there is a lot of slow text, and Japanese version seems to be about 3 minutes faster. However, we haven't gotten our hands on a Japanese cartridge yet, but we do think that getting a 114 on that will completely just kill this game.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're not sure, like, on the extent of actually how much time it saves, but I believe, like, theoretically, with an absolutely perfect run, a high 115 would be the limit on English. Like, already having a 117 is a pretty nuts run.
Yeah, I feel like our splits combined right now, in terms of golds, come down to about a 1550, I think.
Yeah, somewhere around that.
Which is already insane, considering I think all of the golds now are encounterless, except from maybe my Humoro, which is slightly better than his. And his early game is just a lot better than mine is, which is going to make the race a lot interesting, because it's going to be a big game of catch-up for me.
Yeah. So even though I'll probably be ahead for a good chunk of time, that doesn't matter, because in the late game, Sniper's most likely going to be catching up. It's also very important that we talk to this guy right here. He's going to give us a blaster and a sword. Those are like weapons that you could use in the casual playthrough to get some damage output on the crawl. but we don't really need those. We're not even going to equip those, but we have to talk to this guy because otherwise we're going to have a little roadblock. Always a quality meme when you forget to talk to this guy.
We also get a lot of slow text from him, which again really makes me sad that we aren't running on Japanese.
Soon.
Soon, TM.
Alright, so and at this point, we could theoretically already go back to the cruiser and just move on to the next planet, but we're going to be taking a bit of a detour here because we're going to be excavating a very special cube, and that cube is the reason why there are two categories of this game, and why the other category is about 50 minutes slower.
So yeah, this is kind of just a lull for now. So if the streamer, if the host has anything to say, go right ahead.
I sure do. We got a €1 donation from Maya. She says, "Hello Sniperwave and Cyver. This is Maya from the Spectrobes Discord. It's great to see such a niche game be played in front of such a wide audience. And for such a good cause. Have a good race and say goodbye to Trunkos for me." Thank you, Maya.
Yeah, about that comment later. But yeah, there's a really active community for Spectrobes in general.
Yeah.
They've been really trying to data mine. One thing in particular even that is blocking us from actually getting 100% in this game. So there's one Spectrobe out of all of them, which you could only get through a certain Wi-Fi event. And there's actually no way to get it still. So if anyone has some knowledge into testing or cracking codes in this game, there's a challenge for you. Also, I'd like to shout out Fretzy. He's the reason I run the game, and he's the reason Cyber indirectly ran the game as well. Fretzy is the first speedrunner in the game. Back in the day, I think he started off with like a 140-ish time, and he lowered it to a certain point. Now, Fretzy is also the reason I ran at Annual 2017, which is, I think the run Cyber picked it up, but he's the one that has the most knowledge on it.
Alright, so what you saw me right there do was the card input. Basically, what this is, it's this game's equivalent to cheat codes. When the game came out, you get like these promotional codes with some cards that you could put on your touchscreen of your DS, and then just like poke through the holes with your touch pen, and that would unlock some pretty cool things for you, like great Spectrobes or minerals and all that cool stuff. But in this day and age, all these codes are available on the internet, and as Sniper mentioned, there's a pretty active community behind this game series, which is pretty surprising when you consider like this game was like never really that popular, and the last game in this series was like a decade ago at this point.
Yeah, this game was actually released as a trilogy. The second game, Beyond the Portals, being available on DS, and Origins being available on Wii. Also, major shoutouts to Fetzy for routing and running Spectrobes 2, and for Gary J Games for finding a lot of weird things in Origins and actually running it.
Oh yeah, he broke that game in half.
There's some fun out of bounds to be had there.
Right here we got the jetpack. That item will allow us to return to the cruiser whenever we want, unless we're inside a building. Now it's just we're going deeper into the jungle to find the professor of this fossil lab that is on this planet, because he apparently got lost. So we're gonna have to find out what's up with him.
So this is actually the first planet where you can really see vortexes spawn in very unfortunate spots, I would like to say. There's a few that really tend to spawn in small corridors, making them really hard to avoid. And even if you're like not getting the encounter themselves, dodging the vortex on its own is a time waste. So it's more so a game of A, not getting encounters, and B, just praying some won't spawn, which actually happens a lot more in the later game.
Yeah, I actually had a pretty good Genshi Forest right there. And we got another little fight coming up here. So optimally, this will be done in 2 attacks.
These vortexes are quite sketchy on my end, but I went through without encounters.
Oh, no.
So this fight is actually really interesting. You can actually do this in a single attack. It's really difficult. It only happened twice on my end. And I really still don't know how that actually happened, but usually you can just attack 2 and hit the last one with the other Inca Flare, making this a quick fight nonetheless.
Sorry about that, I think my capture card borked temporarily.
Another really interesting thing is we actually use Windora as a party Spectrobe. Now, we actually won't be using it in fights, but Spectrobes that are not used as combat Spectrobes will give you some support bonuses. And Windora is really special in that case, since it gives you a +2 on attack and speed, which is the maximum for both, making combat a lot faster. And you can really notice the difference in speed if you compare the first fight to this fight with Professor Wright's rescue. Also, you could jetpack back to your cruiser. It is slightly faster if you menu optimally, but there's a lot to mess up in the menu, and walking's just a lot more consistent.
Right, so we're done there. So we're moving on to the next planet, Nessa. We're going to be seeing this planet a lot in the run, but first off, we're heading to the colony called Lilton, because there's a certain treasure hunter called Cyrus waiting for us, because he's got a bit of an issue with those vortexes, and he wants to specify, so we're going to pay him a little visit. And I guess another thing to talk about is right here, 2 years ago, you would go downstairs into that background that you see right there and sell a mineral that we would also get via card input, because we would usually back then take it way safer by selling a ruby mineral to get a lot of money and then buying armor later on, because there was a certain boss that would give us a lot of trouble, but eventually we just said, screw it, we're taking it risky.
Yeah, we actually used to get some armor, and that is not just for that one specific boss, but just in general, it was a lot safer back in the day. Now, strats have changed a lot, actually from this point onwards as well, because we thought that the jetpack actually wasn't usable inside. Turns out that this area, you can actually use the jetpack almost anywhere, and that saved like 30 seconds just by traveling.
Alright, so we're now tasked with finding a certain object called the Blue Keystone, and we're going to be finding that in the ruins of Nessa, so that's where we're going to be heading. Also, one thing to note, this planet actually has 3 areas, but the second area has no relevance to the story at all, so we're not going to be visiting that.
Now, if you are doing a casual playthrough, though, there are some unique minerals that you can find only there. Just as a heads up. But yeah, there's no story relevance to it. I don't actually know why it's included in general. Probably just to throw off the players and to introduce the rotation mechanic. So by spinning the planet with your touch screen, you can actually just visit different areas. Which I think is a really creative way of world building.
Alright, we're coming up on our absolute favorite spot in the entire run right here, so let's see what happens here. This vertical hallway. There's a certain thing that can happen. Yep, that guy right there.
So, this is the friend we know as Hall Crawl, or we refer to it as getting ruined. Now, for every time we are getting one combined, I will donate €1. So I'm already at 1 to a maximum of 6. We'll both be seeing it up to 3 times.
Yeah.
This is the only really unavoidable encounter in the game, and we're gonna pass this 3 times. So you can just randomly lose 40 seconds in your run. And I also got mine, so goodbye 13 seconds.
Yeah, it's just one of those really silly things, and even in my world record, I had all 3 times I passed by that, I got them 3 times.
Now there technically is a way to despawn them. There is a way to manipulate the seeds, but restarting your DS and actually resetting the seed takes longer than just hoping it's not there.
The rest of this is just going to be a bit of walking through this maze. All of the vortexes in this area are static, so... And there are no other vortexes that can spawn in like a spot like the other one, where it's just completely unavoidable, so... Really, as long as you're paying attention, you're not going to be getting any vortexes inside of this part.
So yeah, this area is kind of a snooze the first time around. We'll be seeing it a bunch of times, so if the host has anything to say while we're in this area, go right ahead.
I'd like to plug some donation incentives that are coming up. first we have the Super Mario Galaxy 2 2-player 1-controller level. It's currently at 95 euros out of 250. It's really close. Only 155 euros left. I know we can do it.
Ooh.
Then there's the Ape Escape 2 Monkey Football. And I know Reek, he lost me some football. Come on, let's get into it. It does need some donations though. It's currently at 34 euros out of 200.
So I also believe there was a very special bit war, wasn't there?
There's tons of bid wars, but one personal favorite of mine is the Link to Faces of Evil versus Zelda, the Wand of Gamelon game choice. Currently, the Wand of Gamelon is 4 euros and 64 cents ahead. So if you want to snipe that, you still can.
So now that we obtained the blue keystone, we're going to be heading back to Cyrus and we're going to be passing that on to him before we're moving into the next story segment.
So it's kind of a shame it hasn't happened, but every time you touch a planet, there's a single frame where you can hit the area button early, saving you up to 1 second in most locations. And there's actually one location where it does save 3.5, but we'll get back to that later. I'm hoping to get at least one this run. It's really hard to get though.
The cube that we get in exchange for our blue keystone that we found for Cyrus is the Zeta cube. That would actually be a very important cube for the casual playthrough because it would unlock Spectrobe evolution, but since we already have final form Spectrobes thanks to card input, we really don't need to analyze that ever, so we can just move right ahead. We're getting an urgent transmission from the commander. It appears that Kral are attacking the headquarters on Colin, so we need to return right back there and fight off those Kral. We're actually going to be coming up on our first boss fight of the run right here. And also Colin HQ is a pretty tricky segment because for this story segment there's going to be vortexes inside of the HQ. And they can be just really a pain to get past. So let's see how the HQ will treat me.
Good luck on hallway, by the way. This is probably one of the worst segments to move around in. That being a really good example.
Oh my god.
So there's 4 directions on your screen. So the top screen, you actually have a bit of extra view, so you can see the vortexes coming a lot more easily. Now, vortexes coming from the side and down can be a really big manga-esque moment, as the crowd is already saying.
Oh yeah. I was kind of lucky that I didn't get any encounters there, so... Whew. Alright. Boss time. This is another relatively dangerous fight because we can get 2-shot by this guy. But hopefully I can get the quick kill on him. Let's see.
Good luck.
This fight has actually surprisingly have given me a lot of trouble in the practice room earlier today, so I'm kind of scared right now.
Don't worry, man. I had one of my own as well. So boss fights in this game are kind of special where they're...
Oh my god, I actually died.
Ah, yikes.
So you want to punch that minion a bit later than I did?
So yeah, AI patterns in this game are fixed to an extent. So if you move the same, the AI will do the exact same thing. So what you see me do now is move slightly to the left. That will make the enemy target the closest thing to him, which in this case was the right Inca Flare. And now we're just going to hopefully chain him. If not, you can just attack him an extra time and he'll fall over, just as what happened on my screen. That's kind of unfortunate as Cyber died there, but I've had a boss fight of my own that gave me a lot of practice, or a lot of issues during practice, which is actually a lot slower to die on.
Alright, come on. Second try.
Also, I'd like to mention that there is no such thing as really being ahead in this game, due to mostly even the encounters themselves. So I can very easily get 7 to 8 encounters more on certain planets later in the game, and Cyber can catch up really easily. So no matter how unbeatable a certain person looks in the race, they are actually very much beatable. I think, though, the worst race I've ever had, I had 31 encounters, most of which being in very tight corridors, and that was like a 126. Meaning that compared to world record, you can lose 8 to 9 minutes without that much difficulty.
There we go. Bit of a dicey fight on my end still. This guy's just not been nice to me today.
So now that the invasion's been repelled, we're actually going to head to the museum real quick, just to make sure that everyone there is safe, because what better building to hide, right? Who would go to a museum if you were invading a place, right? So yeah, Rallon is debatably not the smartest character of the cast, so he's being sent out while the others devise a strat. Eldest is there because he knows the most about the crawl, and Gina is just quite smart, actually. So this is Dr. Webster. He really doesn't have this much to say in this game, but he gets to have a bigger role in Beyond the Portals. Just kind of nice. Right now he's just a cranky old man, really. He's also very cranky that we apparently have seen a keystone looking just like the one he has in a museum. Also, a small optimization found back when I was still running the game back in 2017 is that you can jetpack back and then walk to the left, saving a bunch of travel time.
Yeah, when you come from the HQ, it's actually not worth using the jetpack because you're already that close to the cruiser anyway, so really the menuing that it would take to use the jetpack would just take longer than actually walking up to the cruiser. That's why you didn't see me use the jetpack there.
It's just kind of a down moment where just a lot of cutscenes and walking plays out, so if the host has anything to say, go right ahead.
Well, I do want to remind chat that you can use your free monthly Twitch Prime subscription right here on the ESA channel to support both us and ESA, and you will get access to both our emotes.
Thank you, Captain. So right now we're being sent to Ziba, which is the furthest planet we can really reach in the solar system. Apparently the moons have been getting out of whack a little bit, so we do have a slightly stronger ship hull now, just to kind of deal with the magnetic field on Ziba. So we're just gonna walk back to our ship and go to Ziba real quick. Now that little room up there with the green arrow is actually a practice room for excavating. So if you really want to practice just getting things perfectly, maybe do some mineral ILs just for fun, because there is an in-game timer. We're actually like thinking about making some kind of memer board for getting a best time on a certain mineral.
Pretty sure that's actually only a thing in Beyond the Portals, that practice room.
No, there actually are a few minerals in this one. In Beyond the Portals, there's a lot more you can do, though. But that game is... there's a lot about that game that's different from this game. Also, coming back on that Zeta Cube we got, the Zeta Cube actually makes the no card input category a lot more faster, does it? I know you've routed most of it and know the most about it, so...
Yeah, we definitely make use of the Zeta Cube in that category.
So the real difference between no card input, as you might think, is not using card input, but what that also means is that it makes it a lot more difficult to obtain the Spectrobes. So routing minerals and leveling up and all that stuff is just being done on the fly. Meaning that there's just a lot more luck involved, as well as skill, because the fight gets a lot harder. So you might see us just like wreck a boss in 2 to 3 hits, but in no card input, you're gonna have to work on.
Oh, nice! They actually got one of the fast travels right there. So you saw me hit the area button earlier than I was supposed to do there, so that's pretty good because I'm already behind, so I could use any time save now to catch up.
So yeah, Ziba is the first planet where encounters can get really dicey, so you saw me walk on a very narrow bridge. Now, some of the tornadoes tend to be slightly faster than others, and the faster ones actually are really hard to avoid. You actually have to guide them to the very bottom or the very top of the bridge, and then walk down all the way on the bottom. And it's really tight to actually do so. So we're slowly heading to Professor Kate after dealing with this vortex over here. She actually knows a lot about just things in general after we've crash landed, because apparently the magnetic field for Ziba was too strong to actually land normally. And Kate is saying that the moons have gotten completely out of hand, and we are thinking that it might be the crawl. So in order to leave the planet, she's giving us a demagnetization unit, and there's a funny thing in this game that I tend to forget, because due to muscle memory, I tend to walk back to the cockpit a lot, and you actually have to talk to Gina. So usually in races, we tend to meme around with yelling at me to talk to Gina. And I actually did it for once, so can I get some applause from the crowd here? I did not forget to talk to Gina.
This bridge is really screwing me right now. This is already the third encounter that I'm having.
Yeah, this cyber screen also shows off how bad encounters can get and how dicey the run can be. But as bad as that bridge might look, this area also has some very interesting vortexes on its own, where on 2 different instances, we just pray it doesn't appear. And sometimes you just get unlucky. And the first one actually didn't appear, so right there on the very first ramp, there's a... Oh, wow. And as I say, I got another one. But as you spawn on the screen, slightly to your left of your view, one of those vortexes actually spawn. And if you don't walk up the moment you see it, you're just losing 13 seconds.
What is this vortex?
And wow,
right
that
here?
vortex is really bad in your end.
This game really hates me right now.
Don't worry, man. You'll catch up in Himuro. My practice went really well, so that means this run is going to be absolutely horrid.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we're slowly heading to the end of the first Red Moon, and this little walkway actually can contain some very bad encounters, like that one. And those are practically unavoidable unless you have some godlike reflexes. So I just tend to pray and hope I don't get them, and usually that works. If I get 1 or 2 encounters, that's not that bad.
Yeah, Ziba moons are very rough in terms of encounters. The vortexes are significantly faster. They're almost just as fast as Rollin, so whenever someone comes from... speaking of talking to Gina... Frig.
Can we give Cyber some applause as well? Why is talking to Gina such a meme? I mean, Gina's kind of annoying throughout this run. She tells us a lot about the older strats that we used to use in 2017, one of which will be mentioned later on. She also like mentions at some point, almost at the end of the game, like, "Hey, Rellin, you're almost there. You can do it," and just wasting 10 seconds that way. We actually really tried our best to skip that cutscene, but we really just couldn't. And I think Cyber just got Skater Boy, which is what we referred the very first vortex to.
At least he didn't hit me.
So this blue moon, I think it's Akaboshi is the blue one?
Aoboshi is the blue one.
Aoboshi. Actually has some really bad encounters. I personally think they're faster than on Red Moon, but...
I think they're equally fast, but they just have like, some really horrible spots they can spawn in.
Yeah, this is really the moon where you start praying that nothing really goes wrong. This is also where PBs come and die.
Sure.
I think Cyber is going to use a different strat on the boss than I do, because I honestly just haven't put my practice into it. And there's a really safe strat, and there's a slightly riskier strat that can save you 6 seconds.
Yeah, this start of mid-game is just a really, really rough patch where a lot of good runs come to die already.
Monka S, what was that? So, Vortexes have some really wacky hitboxes once you hit some more vertical walkways, as you could see on that on that ramp there. You saw me walk down like almost on a spot where a normal vortex would have hit me, but because it's vertical, I feel like the hitboxes move upwards slightly. So yeah, this is the second boss of the game. This is Skessa. there's a really easy strat and there's a slightly harder strat. Cyber will be showing off the harder strat. So back in the day before we had the attack boost from Windora, we actually used to do this boss very differently, and this took like 2 minutes just by managing their health properly. So right now we're just gonna let this guy spin out, and we're just gonna use a special on him and remove him from existence. So yeah, he's stuck there. Wait, how? What just happened? Wait, I have never seen that before. So that is amazing. So what's supposed to happen is that the fire from the Inca Flare would actually hit the Skessa and would do a lot of damage that way.
Well, I got another pretty
Oh, my
terrible
word.
encounter.
Okay, so I got him back into that pattern. So he should be spinning around like he normally does. And stop at a different spot now, maybe? No, it does not. Okay. So I'm just going to get myself a rematch on this guy. And I missed the entire window because he is in a different spot. So I'm going to lose a lot of time to this boss. It's been a really long time since I've seen this pattern happen. So bear with me for a bit as Cyber catches up.
And hopefully I'll be able to show off the quick strat. So I actually only recently found this one. This is probably the most recent optimization. And it was just like kind of starting as, okay, what if we could just hit him while he's spinning around in the arena? So I was just kind of memeing around on stream trying to find a setup for it, and lo and behold, this is what I came up with.
Oh my word, what just happened? Okay, I'm just gonna lose a lot of time on this boss. You can hear him spin off screen. You can actually not hurt him during that. So you're gonna see me reset the cycle a lot of times. And Cyber's already gonna catch up to me. So this is one of the instances where this game you can just lose you a lot of time randomly.
Oh my god, capture card, please. Stop that.
Tech issues, the real final boss of the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and just like that, I'm ahead again. That's the game for you.
Yeah, you basically lost the same amount of time on Jeforma as I did here, because we're like back to where we were.
Oh yeah.
We're like 15 seconds apart again.
Oh yeah, this race is not over until it's over. Oh my god, jetpack menu, why?
And I think that actually messed up. Like, that strat is actually kind of free. A thing that went wrong there is that I was slightly positioned to the left too much, so I didn't have Skessa in the hitbox of the Inca Flare. Even though it looked like that, the hitboxes are slightly disjointed every now and then, and Inca Flare's fire is definitely one of those cases. So the Kroll Nest wasn't on Ziba's moon, which is the furthest they could really reach. And they are appearing to be running out of time. And apparently the final planet of the system, which is Mado, completely just disappeared. So all this is saying that that is probably the Kroll's Nest. However, we cannot reach that right now because no manned spacecraft in this solar system has not reached the outside regions of the solar system itself. And now Kate joins in, saying that she apologizes for dropping into Discord call randomly, and tells us that she has an idea of herself. So we're going to have to do Ziba mainland again, which means we're going to have another round of bridges. So get ready for some fun, and also get ready for some donations if the host has any of them to read.
We don't have any donations, but I would like to tell the viewers that are watching from front page to just jump in chat and join us in chat. And well, for those new people watching, I'd like to tell who we are. We are BSG, the Benelux Speedrunner Gathering. We organize bi-monthly gatherings in the Benelux. We are currently streaming our annual event live from Hotel Asteria in Venray, the Netherlands. We raise money for the Dutch Cancer Society. It's a nationwide organization committed to fight cancer while aiming for more cure and a higher quality of life for those already battling the disease. All of your donations will go to the Dutch Cancer Society.
So yeah, I think Cyber's always coming up the gate. So she's gonna tell us that she has her keystone of her own, and she says that the Nessa ruins might actually be an ancient spacecraft, and that might actually be powerful enough to get us to Mado. So we're just gonna try out her plan. She also says that the Museum Courier in Colin, which we've seen before, also has one of those keystones. So she gives us a letter, the contents of which remain unknown, and he will give us the keystone for that.
Yeah, this segment of the run is just going to be us mostly revisiting areas we've already been to. So that was mainland, so now we're heading back to Colin, and after that it's on to Nessa Ruins once again.
So yeah, the mid game is kind of a really big downtime. Really, it's kind of a good breather in the middle of the run. But after this, the pace just really picks up really hard.
Oh yeah.
There's also a few bosses coming up that are that have given us some trouble in the past, and for me in the present. But I'm actually gonna take an extra heal for that, if that might be needed. So we could also talk about the voice actor of this game. So the voice actor for Rallan in Origins is actually the same voice as another speedrun I've done in the marathon. He also voiced Darius in Valkyrie Profile, Covenant of the Plume, which we actually found out about somewhere in this marathon, actually, just right before the Valk Profile run, which is really interesting.
Yeah, we were just like randomly looking through voice actors of Valk Profile, and we were like, what? Yuri Lowenthal? We know that name.
Speaking of that name, the Spectrobes community has actually had an interview with him recently. They do a lot of interviews with people that either have developed or voice acted in Origins. And it's really interesting that how such a community can do so much. Really just a big shout out to all of the moderators and people in the Discord there. It's a really good time to be there. There's always some people talking about either the wiki or figuring out some info in the games, or even glitch hunting every now and then. So with the 2 keystones in tow, we're just gonna head back to the ruins and see what happens if we put them in their rightful place. So you ready for 6 out of 6 or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, coming back to Nessa Ruins also means coming back to our favorite crawl in the entire game. Hey. There's just a lot of theorizing on how, well, quote-unquote, rare this guy actually is. So, originally we thought it was like a 2 out of 3 chance for him to be appearing, but really in recent times he's been there a lot more than that, so I think our estimate is now more around like 80 to 90%. He's been there a lot.
Yeah, so the data is frame-based, and a really funny thing about that, if you soft reset and move perfectly, you will always get that encounter just because of the seed that you obtained from that.
Oh hey, he actually wasn't there for me.
Go.
Let's go.
So this is another good case of dodging vortexes being slow on my end. So we'll see if I can get it or not. And I also didn't get it.
Go.
2 out of 4. Man, it wasn't there, man. It doesn't like charity, it seems. That's the real evil.
Yeah, you shouldn't have said anything about like donating for every time he was there.
Yeah, it was all to save time. Don't worry about it.
Oh, hello.
Oh, that guy outside can be really awful as well. So vortexes spawn the moment you enter a level or enter a different screen, and they move randomly from there. That is actually not seeded as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Also, walls in this game are miraculous. You can just get stuck on random places every now and then. There's actually a wall in Colin HQ that is really notorious for getting stuck. It actually makes it look like you're stuck on thin air.
Yeah, you can just be walking right next to that wall and just suddenly there's like a pixel or something sticking out of that wall, which visually looks like nothing, but you just kind of get stuck and you're wondering, wow, this game has some terrible walls.
So yeah, if the game gets to be a real blowout by whatever reason, we can probably just show that off. I'm actually surprised the race has been this close, considering how random this game can be.
Alright. Here we are, back in the Keystone room. Got our 2 keystones, so let's see what happens.
So we're actually halfway through the run, and this is kind of the end of all the calm things, really. There's one little section that I really like to call calm, but there's a Hawk Crow in there, so can you really?
Not really.
It's always a tense moment. Yeah, we can now confirm that the Crawl is actually evil, because the moment you say you're donating to charity and they aren't there, they are really evil.
Don't worry, there's a crowd behind you. A tri-crowd.
So yeah, Tricro is actually a really nice guy. Shoutouts to him. Can I get an applause for him? Because Tricro has actually taught a bunch of people Darkest Dungeon out of nowhere, and that game is amazing. So thank you for teaching a lot of people about a really good game. Like, honestly, everyone in this event has been really kind in general. The practice room was always a really good time to be in. Just in terms from learning new games, the playing Quirk, the seeing the hotel staff play Quirk as well, which is actually happening later in this marathon. Be sure to watch the Quirk race, because I am really hyped for that.
Yeah, it's been a blast this week. Oh, so now that we have the 2 keystones put in place, we kind of realize, wait, there was a third one. It was blue. What kind of happened to that? So now the dum-dum that is Ron realizes, oh hey, we kind of gave that away to Cyrus, and if this is really a gigantic starship and we want to make it fly again, we kind of need that third one as well, so we need to strike a deal with Cyrus in hopes that he's going to give us the keystone again, but what can we say about Cyrus? He doesn't just want to give this thing away for free, so...
I mean, if we tell him the entire galaxy is in danger, he's gonna believe us, right? He's totally gonna give us back the very rare artifact we just got for him.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sadly, that's not how he rolls. Instead, we'll have to trade him something in return. And what he wants is the diamond mineral, which we will find at the very top of Tabletop Mountain, which is the mountain of Daishi. This is where 2017 strats come into play, because Tabletop Mountains is a very special place in the game, because there's a lot of aurora falling down from the sky, which damages pretty much everything that does not have a corona property.
See, we actually haven't covered the properties yet. So the properties in this game kind of work in a rock, paper, scissors kind of thing, where Corona beats Aurora, Aurora beats Flash, and Flash beats Corona. It actually isn't that relevant, but enemies do have their what do you call it? Their alignment, to say.
And yeah, back in the day, to kind of avoid getting damaged by the aurora falling from the sky, we would have bought a Corona suit to protect us from that and also give us a little more health on the way. But the Corona, the Aurora doesn't kill you, it only lowers your HP to 1. So yeah, while risky, that's what we're going to be having to deal with.
So yeah, that area also has a boss. Now, that boss has a very specific history to it. We'll get to show off why it's that interesting of a part of a run, really. Tabletop mountains in general are really unique as well, where there's a lot of narrow passageways and a lot of vortexes that can just randomly spawn and waste 13 seconds.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty rough area from the get-go. The first area has a lot of tight spots and moving vortexes, and those two things generally don't go very well together, so we're just either going to have to hope that they're not there or they're just being nice and move out of the way.
I actually got wrecked in Overworld. I kind of like misjudged the range of the vortex and kind of walked kind of close on it, and I got punished. Wow, and my select button just randomly stopped working, because that's what my 3DS does sometimes. So you can run by holding select, and if you hold select, or if you stop holding select for even 1 frame, it just stops the entire thing.
Oh my god, that was a close call right there. As a general rule of thumb, except for, of course, Hall Crawl, anytime a vortex is static, it is avoidable, so... And that's going to be specifically relevant for this area. You already saw me walk past 2 static vortexes. It's pretty tight, but you can generally make it past them.
Also, can we just talk about how there is a spider web, and there's actually no trace of a spider in this game? That's probably the scariest thing in terms of lore.
The outside section can have a pretty fast vortex around, but I didn't see him, so that's pretty good. And this last inside section, everything is static here, so everything is avoidable, so this area generally is not a problem.
Yeah, the really scary part is the outside, especially the first bit, because as you can see on my screen, there's one vortex there that moves at basically 95% of Rallen's speed, so avoiding it is almost as slow as just going into the encounter.
Taking that vortex on the inside is kind of risky because it's pretty tight, but it saves quite a good chunk of time over taking him on the outside. Also, we're coming up. We usually would be coming up on the boss fight right here, but I'm gonna do a little thing right here.
Yeah, so as it turns out, walking against the wall is better than fighting a boss.
Yeah, so...
Shoutouts to, I think it was Ares of Sparta, who joined the Discord about 4 to 5 months ago and was asking us why we were actually fighting Trunkos. And we didn't know why he was asking that, because we didn't know any way to skip Trunkos. And apparently as a kid, he found out from pure frustration with the boss that you can just walk against the wall and skip it.
Yeah, and we've literally never seen that guy around in like any of our streams. He just literally randomly dropped by one day and was like, hey, here's a skip for the hardest boss in the game.
Yeah, so it does if you want to do this on a casual playthrough, I would not really recommend it, because in the post-game there's actually like a multi-fight here, and you can no longer reach it because the cutscene trigger is still there. So be careful with what you do in terms of sequence breaks.
You can actually still reach it by just skipping the trigger again. It's just when you actually activate the trigger, then the game soft locks.
Also, the diamond mineral is unique in a certain way in which you can actually not damage it. It's the only mineral in the game with that property, and it loses that property in Beyond the Portals, where it has a completely different function as well. So yeah, this is the Cyber slowly coming up on late game, and that is where the time loss really starts getting the people at times.
Oh yeah.
I think there is a certain planet where we have both gotten between 1 and 15-ish encounters, and the theoretical maximum encounters you can get is 28. These include all the likely encounters and a certain thing that I'd like to call double spawning, where if the Vortex's original spawn is a certain bit away from Rallen, it can just instantly spawn again, and that could be just outside your screen. So after a battle ends, Rallen has a safe zone where nothing can spawn, but other vortexes will reset to that position if they are not in said exclusion zone. So by getting really unlucky, you can get hit by a vortex twice.
One last time, we're going to be heading back to the Nessa ruins and placing that final blue keystone back into its rightful spot.
So yeah, I'm just gonna heal real quick before that. I've had a lot of issues with a boss in the ruins. It's been quite the pain, and dying there makes you walk all the way back through the desert, through the ruins, and waste like up to 4 minutes.
It's definitely one of the biggest time losses that you can get.
I'd argue it's the second largest.
Definitely up there. All right. One more time, Hall Crawl, are you there?
Am I donating an extra euro?
there.
It does
Yes.
look like it. Maybe they're not so evil after all. See if it's 3 or 4.
I already had a 1 out of 3 in the practice room today, so having another 1 out of 3 would have been a bit too weird.
Yeah, I've practiced the upcoming boss a bit, and I've gotten 11 out of 13 of my run-throughs in the ruins, so... Oh my word. That's a rare spawn. So sometimes you really just forget that some spawns exist. That happens. There's a lot of spots that things can spawn, and this is probably one of the worst ones. Usually it goes off way further to the left, and sometimes you just disregard things because they never happen, and you'll get punished for it. So while we're enjoying the amazing music in the ruins, host, do you have anything to say?
I sure do. I'd like to tell everybody to stay updated with our events by following our Twitter and our Instagram under the handle BSG Marathon. You can get a look behind the scenes of the event and stay up to date with our latest news about marathons, events, or more. And while I'm at it, I'd like to thank ESA for supporting the event and allowing allowing us to stream on their channel. I also would like to thank the Esports Game Arena for providing us with gaming monitors for the event.
Thank you very much. So I did get the 4 out of 6, so I'll be donating €4 to charity. Maybe Cyber will join in on that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, sure. I already spent like $80 thanks to Lemma, but hey, €4 won't hurt me.
And it was worth it.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
Lemma run was insane. It's also quite the change of pace from this game. Oof.
All right, here we go. So this boss fight, I like to call this guy Sniper's best friend.
Hey, now easy there. He does love a hug. Let's just call it that.
Yeah. For some reason, Sniper has a lot of trouble with this boss. I don't know why. This one's really free in my opinion. So
Yeah, it actually is, but I do my movement slightly differently, and because of that, one of the minions shoots a homing bullet, and sometimes it just tends to hit Rallen while he's at 1 HP, and it just absolutely ruins your day. It's really unfortunate how that has come to be. So yeah,
There
that's
we go.
Cyber actually pulling off the strat successfully there. I don't know what it is with that boss. Like, the more I practice it, the more I seem to just mess it up. It's really weird.
like I said, free fight.
Free fight indeed. But then again, you said the same about Jeforma. You know what happened there.
Oh. You certainly wrecked my shit today.
As I actually said the same thing to Skessa. So yeah, this game is very nice to run. We're totally top tier runners.
Questionable at times.
Yeah. So this is what we mean with when we say that the game always wins.
Now we got a little bit of cutscenage coming up before we head into the late game with the most infamous planet in the entire run.
Oof. I mean, it's not technically a planet. Technically a moon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Say it after my splits, Himuro sucks.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Okay, this should be good in my end. Maybe? Oh, it's not. Whoa, easy there, boy. Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna reset the phase real quick. I'm really scared about what that boss can do and what the minions can do. Actually, am I? Am I really? Nah. Okay, maybe I am. Heck. This boss can be, I don't know what it is. Like, whenever I do a normal race, this just goes fine, and sometimes it just does this. So I was debating between resetting the phase, which you can do by just charging the bar to full, and then doing a special attack with both. That just gives you a fixed phase, and you can get a really easy strat from there. But if you hit him with 2 more fire attacks, it also just works. That's also a thing with this game. Like, things go right so often that you sometimes just forget what to do when it goes wrong.
Yeah, when things go right, they're absolutely smooth and there's nothing to worry about. But when things go wrong, oh boy, they will go wrong. The game will let you know when it really hates you.
Yeah, I think there was one race we did where the game really hated me and really loved Cyber at some point, and it just gave me all the really bad encounters. And by encounters alone, I think I lost like 6 minutes.
Alright, so now that we have our the ruins as a starship, we can now head to the last 2 planets in the system, Himuro and Meido. So Rallen, being the kind of guy that would just like head face first into any sort of threat, we're thinking, oh yeah, let's go to Meido right away. But the Crawl kind of have a different plan for us. They really don't want us to just barge in like that. So they say, yeah, no, screw you, you can't enter. So we're kind of forced to land on Himuro instead and figure out a way to get past that wall of Crawl.
See, this is the dreaded planet where you can get up to 14 to 28 encounters depending on your luck. Usually, we consider between 3 and 5 to be a good Himuro.
Yeah.
And saying that a 40-second time loss is a good thing, yeah, that should speak for itself, really.
Yeah, this can go anywhere between a single encounter to double-digit encounters, and both of that would just be perfectly normal because, yeah, that's the planet for you.
Also, I think we're going to use different strats here. So because I healed, I cannot use a strat that Cyber might be using.
Depends.
We'll see what he does. Because he has 1 HP, he can do a Death Warp by just forcing a death after a long walk. Which, oof, that was a nice vortex there. Yeah, that actually could save a bunch of time. It is technically slower, but it's a lot more consistent due to avoiding a lot of the really bad vortexes in this game.
This long bridge right here can have like up to 3 vortexes, I believe, so pretty good that we have none of them here.
Yeah, I think 3 is the worst we've ever seen.
Yeah. So the main goal of our exploration on Imuro is this planet consists of 3 main areas, I want to say. The west side, the east side, and the control room. So we need to go to both the west side and the east side to activate a switch. And that will give us access to the control room. West side is relatively chill. Not too many troublesome vortexes here. But if you don't pay attention, you can still easily run into one face first, like I did right there. So yeah, that happens.
So yeah, the entire reason we couldn't get tomato is because the planet was kind of covered in crawl, meaning it was A, invisible before anything else, and B, there's just too many there to actually land. So we're gonna need to find a gigantic source of light to kind of just break through.
Fortunately, Mado is just so far away from the sun.
Also, can we just talk about how good the song is on Himuro? Like all of this game has really atmospheric and chill music, and then there's just Himuro, which is an absolute banger.
Right, so one encounter up to west side switches, pretty average, I'd say.
I'd consider that pretty good.
Just need to pay attention on the way back. Nope, that's a second one.
Ooh, time to catch up. Seems. Yeah, this is where my where late game is. So I've actually compared our average splits on Himuro, and he is usually saving 2 minutes in the early game, and I'm usually saving 1.5 on average, which is really interesting as a demographic. So this is where I really need to catch up. Not getting an encounter so far. Going on the west side is good though. Really nifty start to Himuro.
We're done with west side now. East side is significantly longer and also way more douchey than west side, because especially the inside segment has a lot of tight spots where vortexes can just spawn and just completely ruin your day and your time and your PB chance and basically everything you ever loved.
Yeah, Himuro is a special kind of evil. Also, can we just talk about last year and why this race actually didn't happen?
Yeah, so this we already submitted that last year, and it also got accepted. But annual 2018 kind of went south, like, a lot, so...
Yeah, we had to ban an entire disease for this year, which actually went pretty well, I'd say. So a lot of people got sick, and I was kind of too tired trying to clean up the mess as a first aider. So we couldn't really do the run without, well, kind of dying on site.
Yeah.
So it was moved to this year. I'm really happy we had another chance to show off this run, because it is a lot of interesting dynamics, especially as a race where anything can happen from start to finish. Like Cyber's still I feel like he's about, I'd say, a minute ahead, but there's a lot of things that can happen.
May even be a little more, honestly.
Yeah, even on the final 2 planets, losing up to 2 minutes really isn't that uncommon. Ooh, that's a really bad east side vortex. Yeah, I was afraid of that.
Alright, so now that we have both switches activated, I could choose to do a death warp like Sniper mentioned, but there weren't really that many silly vortexes on the way, so I'm just gonna go for it.
So,
of course, that guy just moves right into the way.
I mean, this is a good time to show off the death warp.
Yep, let's go.
Oh my word. Yeah, so the one I just got is practically unavoidable with the moment it locks onto you, so I'm just going to walk into it and take the encounter. Now, what death warping really has as an advantage is that you go through the easy area again. So the area with the bridge is basically where you need to go. You actually go to the control room from there. It is slightly faster to retake the east side, but if the moment you get 2 or more encounters on the way back, you're actually off a little slower.
And since that encounter was still relatively I should have tried a little harder with that one.
Monka.
But yeah, since the encounter was still relatively close to the switch, I just decided, yeah, we were just going to take the Death Warp, I guess. Good
So
thing
yeah.
about that, at least, is it automatically recovers your health.
That's
So
free. That's
now
free
we're back
encounters
to
for you, right?
150. That's 5 now with the Death Warp.
Yeah, I'm at 3 already. So this section, especially on the east side, is why we recommend the Death Warp. There's just so many small corridors on the way back that usually it ends up just being worth it.
Yeah, and again, 5 vortexes is absolutely fine. That's pretty average for me, I'd say. And this is just like the real big run killer. Like, once you're past this planet and you had like close to no encounters on this one, or you're still on a good pace, even though you got like 5 or 6 encounters, that's kind of just the signal. Yeah, go mode.
So yeah, the 2 switches we press actually unlock the control panel that Siver's heading to. And as it turns out, this moon can actually redirect the sun's rays to Mado and create a gap in the atmosphere we can just break through.
Yeah, strangely enough,
Oh, my word.
this seems to be a man-made planetoid. So
But
we
yeah,
can
this
just completely control Himuro's orbit here. Gonna bundle the sunlight and shoot it towards Mado.
Oh wow, that's a really unfortunate way back. I got 2 vortexes on a really small passageway. You could lure them out, but if they're that far in the passageway, it usually ends up not being worth it. Oh wow. Okay, your Himura is now better than mine. So this is just an example of how fast things can go wrong. So in the past 2 minutes, I lost 40 seconds just to encounters, and that's just something that can happen in this game.
While we were just kind of like turning around the orbit of Himuro, we found something else along the way, and that is the Relic Crystal. Right now we have no idea what it is. It kind of looks like a cube, so maybe Aldous can tell us something about it. Let's head back to the cruiser and see what he can tell us.
But yeah, for anyone that would like to pick up this game, I'd say anything sub 125 is a really good time to get. Usually if you can go deathless, you'll get a 123, 124 pretty easily. It's a really good goal time to start on. Gives you a good incentive to learn all the harder strats, including the things like the 1 HP Carcassa and the 1 HP final boss, which is quite something, if I would say.
Oh yeah. Get me started on how many runs died to that.
So yeah, optimally you do the final boss on 1 HP as well, but since Siver Death Warped and I healed for Carcassa, that's not going to happen on our screen, which gives us some extra lenience on that fight.
So right here, the game kind of gives you a choice because you can choose now to go to Mado, obviously, since the path is clear. But we could also go to the lava flows, which is another area on Genshi, because as the Relic Crystal tells us, there's an ultimate form Spectrobe sleeping there, which is quite the force to be reckoned with and could turn out to be very useful in the fight against the Crawl. So, and the game kind of like gives you this illusion of a choice because you could go to either planet, but really you have to go to the lava flows first because the final boss of the game has a shield, which makes him completely immune to any sort of damage that you would throw at him, and you need the ultimate form Spectrobe to break through that shield. This is also my favorite area in the entire game. It's got cool aesthetics, it's got cool music, and it's just a really chill point in the end game because you've seen Himuro, it's a bit of a chaotic planet. There's just things that can go wrong left and right. And the planet right after this, Mado, is not going to be any nicer. So having lava flows here in between, which is just pretty nice and chill, slow vortexes, not a lot of problematic spots. It's just really nice.
Yeah, so this is also the area where getting Japanese card is going to save a really just big amount of time due to how long the slow text takes. I think there's 4 of the 5 lava flows you have to stop. And then there's a really long slow text on the Geo pickup itself. So yeah, there's actually more than one geo. Only one of them is related to the story. The other one can be accessed by getting multi-fights. Those are things that you can only unlock in the post-game.
Really? Man, what a douche. What, there's another one?
Wow, you've gotten really unlucky there.
Wow, I've never seen 2 of them in the same spot.
I haven't seen that in the 3 years I've ran this game. That's really interesting.
So even like after the hundreds of runs that we've did, every now and then you just see some super weird vortex constellation that just completely throws you for a loop and still gets you because you're just not ready for it. And that was a perfect example of that right there. I could have lured that one guy out and went past him, but then the second guy kind of moved in the way.
So yeah, anything really can happen. So even if things like if my Himura was a 1 or 2 encounter, we would have been equal right now. And it would have been in reverse as well, where Siver could have been 5 to 6 minutes ahead if everything went wrong on my side. It's really interesting to have races, and we're kind of getting to a point where people are starting to pick up this game. And once we have a bunch of extra runners, we might actually just do weekly races, because they're a ton of fun to do together.
Oh yeah, nothing's more painful than actually grinding this game on by your own.
Yeah, you can get really, really down on this game if you get bad luck over and over again on the same area. There's just... You can get a feeling that you're just out of control of what can happen in this game.
Certainly a lot more fun when you have some other nerd in a voice chat that you can just talk trash about the game.
Yeah, I mean, last time that happened, you world recorded by a minute, so...
Yeah. I have this strange tendency to just get PBs whenever we race.
Yeah, so PB has actually been long overdue for both of us, but it really was just held back by the amount of encounters, and Siver recently got what we would consider to be the GOT run for everything that wasn't Hall Crawl.
Yeah.
And he just absolutely wrecked house on the leaderboards.
Yeah, so the current world record has 7 encounters, and 3 of those were Hall Crawl, so outside of that bad luck, I had really good luck and really good dodges,
So 7 might sound like a lot, but on average, I'd say a normal run can get 10 to 15 encounters. Maybe that would even be a good run. I'd say if you're beginning, somewhere between 20 and 25 isn't really that weird, and that's still enough to get us up to 125 if all your boss fights go well. Yeah, those vortexes really do take quite some time.
more slow text here.
It is
Quick conversation, and then we're going to be heading off to the final planet.
this amount of slow text can really annoy you sometimes because you really want to mash A, but it really doesn't change anything. There's a really bad vortex there for me, yeah. So yeah, the most frustrating part about this game is once you get to the faster vortexes, any direction that isn't up basically requires you to have some godlike reflexes to actually dodge all of the vortexes you get. And on Mado, there's a lot of those.
Oh yeah.
So the start of Mado is actually really bad, and the vortexes just go slower over time. And in the final area, once Cyber gets there, he is almost guaranteed to not get an encounter unless a vortex is in a very specific spot, which doesn't tend to happen that often.
It's totally still possible.
Also, we're gonna get to the best worst cutscene in the game. Everybody hates it.
Ekin Gino.
It is actually just Gina saying we're almost there, and she wastes 25 seconds doing so. Why it is in the game, I have no idea.
Thanks, Gino.
I also don't think it plays if you don't have the Geo, right?
I am not sure.
I'm actually not sure on that. If there's anyone from the Spectrobes community watching, please state the facts in the chat.
Alright, so that is the first really problematic vortex. A guy in the labyrinth, you just have to get really lucky that he just, by some weird grace of God, moves out of the way, but he rarely ever does that, so if he's there, it's best to just try and run face first and hope that he just moves. If he doesn't, too bad.
So I got myself a Geo as well. So the Geo is actually required to beat the first and final phase of the last boss. The final boss fight actually consists of 3 phases, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So, Mado itself is actually a really interesting planet. So the atmospheric soundtrack really gets you on a really creepy vibe on what is going on. So, with the ruins there, we actually might think that is just an overgrown planet that once had civilization, but there's no sign of anything about the planet, and the planet actually doesn't return in the future games. So there really is just a gigantic gaping hole in the lore, making it an even creepier place. Sadly, didn't get any fast planets on my run. Kind of unfortunate, but they're really hard to get. They are firm perfect after all. Oof. That's a really good Mado on your end. Impressive.
Oh, yeah. This is only one vortex so far.
So Mado is a planet that can go pretty wrong pretty easily, especially on this section at the end. So the passages have a lot of height differences, and the moment you're on a more vertical, plane, you are going to get wrecked by hitboxes every now and then.
My Mados have been actually really good.
Yeah, that's a
recently.
really solid Mado.
Right, and the final area, vortexes here are really slow, but there's some tight spots where vortexes can just really screw me over. Hopefully this doesn't happen. Final opportunity right here. Okay.
Good
That's
job,
a one
Cyber.
encounter Mado.
Can we get an applause for that? That's actually really rare that happened. So the average Mado is like 2 to 3 encounters. Also, for some reason, I walked back up, and this hole is really weird in where you have to walk away quite a bit because it just doesn't want you to return until you actually get that one off screen. It was accidental, but it's kind of cool to show off.
Alright, and we're coming up on the final boss sequence here.
Ooh. Zeta, please just don't choke that.
I'll try my best.
So we had, for the longest of times back when we were grinding for the sub 120, I think we both lost like 5 to 10 runs in a row to this guy just because we somehow forgot how to do the strat properly one day. And it happened on the same day, so races became really interesting. I think we had a race where we both ended in like 145 or something crazy like that, while our PB was like a 120. So the entire estimate, so you could see on the splits that everything was just like normal, nothing higher than plus 30, and then just the final split got like plus 25.
Welcome to the game. Alright, so right away I'm going to be using the ultimate form Spectrobe here to break the shield of the final boss. And hopefully we're going to land a couple of quick hits on him. This fight's going to be over very soon.
So actually for Tech Dusk, the time isn't happening until we hit the final input, which is a text box. So after the 3 phases of the boss, there is an actual cutscene that lasts about 50 seconds, and on the final fade out, it is the end of the run.
A couple of minutes until then. This gigantic mushroom-like creature right here, it emits spores and it appears to have healing powers. So right here we get our HP restored back to full. But this not only works for us, but also the Crawl, as we figure out, as the guy that we just defeated seems to also be slowly coming back to life. So we're kind of coming to the conclusion this is the source of the life of the Crawl, so we need to get rid of it. That's a pretty easy fight, though, because this thing can't move and all it has are these 2 Zeppy, which won't deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, those Zeppy are actually enemies from the very first planet, so they're really weak. I think they do like 16 damage to Rallen, and we've got beginner armor, so they're kind of a joke. This fight is honestly kind of a pushover. I think there was a race at some point where my capture card just completely crashed, and by the time I fixed it, I still wasn't dead.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to die on that fight.
You really need to try hard to screw up in that fight. Even more so because you get healed right before it.
And especially back in the day when we still got armor, the Zeppy would only do 1 damage. He could stand still for practically an hour without dying.
Alright. On to the true final boss of the game right here. The Sniper is starting his final boss sequence.
So yeah, we're actually going to use a function unique to evolved Spectrobes in this fight, which is using the using them to charge, in which you make them stand still, but they charge the gauge a little faster. We actually didn't used to do that until very recently.
I did that
Oof.
wrong. Pressed the wrong button there.
Actually using the new strats on your end. Interesting.
Oh, he's still charging. Hold on. I need to make him follow again. Ah, it's a mess.
Yeah, here's my time to shine. No, this boss fight is actually like pretty much fixed. There's not a lot that can happen. Like, there's actually not much leeway in terms of things that can go wrong. Ooh, they actually hit each other at the very same frame. So there's a very weird thing in how priority works. Sometimes one Spectrobe gets hit when the enemy itself is a hitbox, but any other thing just makes it so they hurt each other at the same time. So for instance, Skessa is one of those things where sometimes Skessa hits Inca Flare first on certain angles, because Skessa itself becomes the hitbox, and so does Inca Flare. We don't necessarily know how that works. Yeah, it seems like Siver is really on its way for quite a decent run, actually. Seems to be getting like a 121, give or take.
Pretty clean ending to Goblada right there.
I think you got a 121.10
Yeah,
there.
That's
really solid.
121.
That's a solid marathon run.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's actually nothing that can go wrong aside from his A button dying. I think you can still advance text by cutscenes still, so it's gonna take a lot to not have you finish. So you see me use a slightly different strat where I try to draw the aggro to Rallen while I double hit, while I use two specials on the Zellies. I'm actually not sure which is faster, but it shouldn't matter all that much.
Yeah, just a couple of text boxes here left on my end, and then we're going to be coming up on time, so tech, get ready for that. And time.
Well done, Siver.
Oh yeah, 121.16. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's really solid.
Yeah, considering I also died to Jeforma, that could have been a 119 even.
Yeah, I mean that was a really fast death though. That was really fortunate for you. Too bad that Skessa went kind of sour for me. Looking to get, I think I might get like a 124, so I should be well under estimate unless things go wrong.
Oh yeah.
Famous last words. Monka estimate, indeed, Couch. So yeah, do you have any shoutouts for certain people?
Yeah, I'm just gonna let you finish first.
I should be fine. This fight is honestly kind of easy, especially the start. Yeah, I actually have to hit it one more. So if you use the Geo before he puts up the shield, you can actually no longer clear this fight. It's really weird in that case because you can only use the Geo once per fight, and in normal battles it would actually instantly end the encounter. But on the final boss here, he only throws his shield up once his HP goes below, I think 655, might be 650.
2/3. 665, I think.
Yeah, that starts the second phase. The second phase is honestly kind of the hardest phase where a lot of things can really go wrong. He doesn't really like do that much afterwards. He just stands there and heals, really. It's kind of it's cheap because if you don't really have the strongest of Spectrobes in terms of DPS, this boss can be really difficult in a casual playthrough, and I might get hit there. Yeah, that was a really solid boss fight. I'm probably going to get a sub 124, maybe. It's going to be really close.
Yeah, I think that's high 123.
Yeah, that's 10 minutes faster than my run in 2017, which is already quite fast. Back in the day, the 134 flat I got was world record, and going exactly 10 minutes under would be really iconic. Yeah, going under estimate, considering how bad that Heck and Skessa went, and all the random encounters just add up to a lot of things. So, yeah, I'm really happy with this. I'm really happy we could show this off again. Thanks to BSG for giving us a second chance. Thanks for the entire Spectrobes community, both the general community and the speedrun community. Both are interlinked, so you can access the Spectrobes speedrunning Discord from the speedrun.com page, and from there will be a link to the general Discord as well. I would like to especially thank Maya for both donating during the run
Oh, by the way.
Time. Okay, I actually had to interrupt there. I'm sorry, but yeah, Maya and all the other mods for really just shouting us out a lot of times. I'd also like to shout out for this guy right here. For I think you actually got a few runners into this game as well. I think Beanie found this game for your stream as well as Ares of Sparta.
Might be. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there have been a bunch of extra runners to this game. If you have a DS capture or any other way, we do allow emulator, but they will be hidden on default by on the leaderboards due to slightly different loads. But yeah, this game is a lot of fun to pick up. It's a really good casual run. It's quite easy to pick up. There's a full guide out there on the Speedrun Discord. Some strats will be updated because they have changed. And maybe we'll see a no-card input run someday by both of us. Who knows?
Maybe. But yeah, before I pass it off here, yeah, I can just mostly repeat the shoutouts that Sniper gave. Big shout out to the Spectrobes community. It's honestly quite impressive that after like a decade of not having a game in this series, there's still such an active community behind it. It's just super cool. And yeah, especially big shout out to this nerd right here, because about 1.5 years ago, when I was just like kind of looking through my old childhood games, looking for some new stuff to speedrun, I came across Spectrobes, and I was wondering, okay, what's the speedrun of that like? So I looked it up, found this guy's run, which was the world record, which was also the run that actually introduced me to BSG. So kind of weird how that works. That 2 years later, I'm now sitting here together with this nerd at the same event.
With a world record.
Yeah, racing.
2 world records even.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy. So thank you, Sniper. Thank you, BSG. Thank you, Spectrobes community.
And thank you, Siver, for actually racing me for the quote-unquote second time in a row.
Yeah, it's honestly been quite a ride, and I'm just super happy that all of it happened. It's been quite the experience for me. So.
And we hope you enjoy the rest of the marathon, because there are still a lot of runs coming up. We are on the final day because it is Saturday local time. We have only like 17 hours of marathons to go. And yeah, be sure to watch all the runs, either live or back on the VODs, which will be uploaded on the BSG YouTube later on.
So yeah, with that, I guess we can pass it back to the host. So yeah, have fun with the rest of the marathon.
Alrighty. Thank you, Sniperwave and Siver, for the amazing run. Next up, we have SteamWorld Heist, Casual % from Trycrowd. I'm excited. But first, advertisements. PogChamp,